basically, I just want to thank you guys first and foremost. I hope you guys got a lot out of today. We're not quite done yet. We've got 2 more things left to give you. But I just wanted to briefly, thank you and kind of give you an idea of what this was all about and where this came from, and a little bit of what I'm going to do with these circles in just a minute. So basically, one of the things that we all are in this room is we're all leaders of some kind. There are people in this room that I've hired, there are people that have hired me in this room, and I'm sure that'll continue as we move forward. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a brief history of what I'm about and where I came from, just so you kind of understand, and I'm going to touch a little bit upon some leadership skills that I've learned over the years that have helped me and might resonate with you as well. So as a brief history, I come from Arizona. I started in this business back in 2002, and essentially I started with a website that I created in Phoenix because nobody had access to, say, like a Jambase or a Do 512. None of that existed. So I started something called Arizona Heads, and all these bands were interested in listing on there, and everything was going well. And then the band said, "Hey, can you start booking me?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm kind of a broke college student. I can't do that." But what ended up happening was a local bar owner said, "Hey, you take the door, and I'll take the bar ring, and you bring in whoever you want. I trust you." So that started the process of me getting into the music business first and foremost. So we did a couple, one-off shows, and one thing led to another, and we were getting, bigger bands like Yonder Mountain String Band and Humphreys McGee, and we were, I'm a jam band fan, if you don't know. So we had some good times, but what ended up happening was there was kind of a ceiling. There was kind of a limit there. I either had to invest capital or find a city or a place that was really into live music. Because Phoenix, as great as it is, it's not a live music town. So a buddy of mine, as it so happened, said, "Hey, come to Austin. I've got a job for you in the college degree that has nothing to do with music that you have. Why don't you come here and give it a go?" So I did. And I came here, and I sort of had this come to Jesus moment where, I was one of the main guys in Phoenix because nobody was doing anything. But then here, they'd say, "Oh, well, Mike, we love working with you in Phoenix, but we've been working with John for the last 10 years. So I immediately had this humbling, I got to start over part. So I volunteered. One of my first gigs actually was Old Settlers back in 2004. And so it started from there. And I picked up gigs along the way, and I started doing little events and festivals. But, what ended up happening was I had a couple turning points. I was doing okay, but I wasn't really thriving. And I wasn't quite sure why. I was a little unsure. And what ended up happening was I found out probably about 7 years ago that I was going to be an uncle for the first time. And as a result of that, I realized I had some internal work to do. I had to kind of get my head straight because I wanted to be the best uncle I could for my new nephew. And I realized that I didn't quite have the self-awareness I thought I did, because the same things kept happening, and yet I wasn't happy. And some of that came out in my work. And so what ended up happening was I put in the time. I read a lot of books, which a lot of these are on this table, and you're free to look at in a little bit. The other thing I did was I went to therapy, and I really started honing in on, what do I really want out of this life, and how can I interact with people better, and what's the next step for me? These are all questions you've probably asked yourself at some point. So that was my big turning point. And what happened with all these books is a lot of them tend to say the same thing, which is really amazing. They all talk about compassion, and they talk about empathy. And as a matter of fact, today is World Empathy Day, believe it or not. So that's really cool. Right. And so you see all these words being thrown around, but sometimes you don't know what that means. You might understand, the difference between sympathy and empathy and compassion and all that, but what does that all really mean, and how does it translate to us? So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, the visuals I like to use when I talk about this to my friends is, it's almost like you have a gas gauge. And so on your gas gauge, you've got the E, right? And then you have, we'll do it with the green, not the F. Okay, so on the one side, a lot of this is duality. So if you wake up in the morning, for example, and you say, "Oh, I've got too many emails, I don't have enough time, I don't know how I'm going to get everything done today," that's coming from a place of scarcity. You don't have enough. You're just scrambling. You're feeling overwhelmed. I've been there. I was, ironically, I was there in February this year because I had a lot of gigs, as I'm sure we all did. I was doing fine on yours, Dean. Don't worry. But at any rate, all that was doing really well. But then what happened was my tank was getting uneven. So what happens when your tank is on E, when you're going to scarcity and you're starting to blame, or you're starting to do these low-level behaviors, whether it's comparison, like, oh, Sarah's doing great, she's got all these gigs, why can't I get all mine done, Well, I don't really know, it just looks like you are. You might be in the same position I am. But when you get to that low-level thinking, it hurts you, and it starts to bring you down. And then that can trickle to your staff as well. We'll get to that in a second. So what I try to do is I say, okay, well, how can I get to gratitude? How can I wake up every morning, and rather than say, God, I got all these emails, I got all these things to do, why don't you say, it could be something as cheesy as, man, I have a nice bed. I can't wait to have cereal in the morning. I really like cereal. It sounds odd, but it works. Because when you start feeling in that way and thinking that way, all of a sudden the emails aren't that important, because you're not tying your self-worth to them. You know that you're worthy and you're better than just, oh my God, if I don't answer the email from Tony and give him that stage plot, he's going to say something, and then I'm going to get fired and all these things, right? You could go down that road if you wanted to. But if you continue to go to compassion and gratitude, and you continue to get your needle as close to F as possible, then everything becomes a little bit easier. And so it's all about how we put that out to others. So as leaders, one of the things that I want to look at is, how do we go from shame to empathy? And how do we go, the other thing is, the other one is the fitting in versus belonging. And I've been guilty of that too. There have been times where I've been on a new gig and I'm trying to do everything right, and I think I am, but I really need that pat on the back. I need that. I'm feeling that that's tied to my self-worth. Now, 7 or 8 years ago, I didn't know why I needed that. I just felt that way. So what would happen? I would force the issue. I would go to my superior and I would say, hey, did I do okay? How'd I do? They're busy. They don't know. And they'll come back and they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, Hanley, close that road case better next time. I don't know, Or maybe that one did something terrible. All I really wanted was feedback. But the thing was I was forcing the issue. And so it's a matter of being able to just be comfortable enough with yourself. And again, realizing that, hey, maybe I didn't do anything wrong, or if I did, they would tell me. Let's focus on what I did right. Let's be grateful that I had a gig, especially now, right? And let's be grateful that, I feel like I did a good enough job that nothing bad happened. If you're waiting for that criticism, which I've been guilty of, sometimes that's that self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll probably get it in the form of, man, why is Mike so needy? Why is he asking for this? He's fine, Now that I've become more of a leader, I've seen the opposite side of that coin, where people have come to me and then I'm kind of like, oh, that was me 7 years ago. I get that now, okay. But I try to lead with compassion. And rather than judge them or belittle them and say, get out of my trailer, as best I can, I try to sit them down and say, okay, listen, you don't need to ask. We'll get feedback, but you're doing okay, or whatever it is. The other thing too, though, is we can only do so much with other people's emotions and thoughts, and that's why it gets down to leading by example. So one of the things I want to talk about is my approach to staff. How does this apply to you guys? What can you guys do with your teams to help lead with compassion? Well, this is a book. Now, some of you guys may know this. It's the 5 appreciation languages. Does anybody know what these are? Raji?
Like, you want me to say them?
Yeah.
Touch.
Okay.
Verbal. Or,
Okay.
Gifts.
Okay. You said words.
Like service.
Yeah.
And,
One more.
Quality time.
There she. There
What
you
was
go.
it?
Quality time. I was like,
QT.
yeah.
Oh.
So what
I'm
I
so
do is-
introverted, I forgot.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And I know my scribble is probably hard to read. Here's the thing. These, of course, you guys probably know them as the love languages. They're very simple. The great thing about this is I've given this test to my staff, and actually they're running a sale, like a half-off sale, just randomly. It's
Oh,
great.
that book?
Well, not the book. The actual quiz. And
Oh.
so what I do is I have my staff take this quiz, and I find out what their appreciation languages are, so I can manage them better. Because as a quick example, if Casper is into gifts, then I know that she doesn't really care if I say, Casper, great job, you killed it, like students, rocket. No, she wants that $100 gift card. And she's not greedy. She's like, thanks, Hanley, but really, I just want, where's my Starbucks gift card? Please and thank you. So there's that. Same thing with, with service. They don't care if you don't make time for them or not in terms of having an extra meeting or making quality time. But if it's 2 in the morning and they got to stuff artist packets and you're bailing, and you're going back to the hotel, that's going to hurt them. That hurts their morale because you're not sticking up for doing an act of service for them.
Yeah.
So those are those things where you might not understand that with your staff, but if you have them take this quiz, it's unbelievable. Well, as you guys may know, I tend to err a little bit on the thorough side. And so because of that, I make my staff take 2 tests. That's one is not enough, clearly. As great as that is, that's more just about how to make your staff happy and how to be a little bit more empathetic to them, which is great. This is the 4 tendencies. This book is wonderful because it talks about internal and external expectations. And so this is what the 4 circles are right here, what they represent. You've got the upholder, which is if you ever know that friend that just wakes up and goes for a run at 6 in the morning and never needs another friend to do it and just does it and posts on Facebook and you're like, I want to shoot you, you know? That's probably an upholder because they don't need anybody telling them what to do. They don't need an accountability buddy. They're good to go. The thing about an upholder though is they go with the rules so much that they'll be like, yo, but we can't do this until 8:01 or this or that. Like there's no room for error. So they're very rigid. So you have to manage that and watch that a little bit. The other one here, which this is what I am, which is an obliger. If you've ever heard the term people pleaser, that's, yep, Dre, you and I have talked about this. Oh, lots of hands go up. Okay, fair enough. Oh, there you go. Well, I'll tell you what Jeannie is in a second.
Yeah.
I bet you can guess.
You don't have to tell me.
I bet you can guess. So at any rate, an obliger is somebody that resists internal, but they are into the external. In other words, what that means is, I'm going to do everything I can for you, but I'm going to skip all my meals on site because I just can't eat because I got to get everything done. But I'm not taking care of me. So what happens to me eventually? I burn out. And what happens is I flip that coin and I'm out. And that's dangerous. And so what happens is people that don't know this, you might as a manager pile on more work because they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll take it. You don't know you're killing them because they don't want to tell you. They're a people pleaser. So you have to watch out for that. And this book does a great job of telling you what to do with coworkers that have all these 4 things. The next one, which may or may not be Jeannie, is rebel. They resist internal and external, gosh, I lost my train of thought. But they basically, what they are the think outside the box folks. They are the innovators. They're the ones that are the entrepreneurs. Often like Azar may be one because he decided he needed to have, a lighting company that didn't really exist 15 years ago. So we need the rebels, but the thing is how do we manage them? Well, the thing about managing someone that resists internal and external expectations is they have to be aligned that they want to please you. So if Sarah has Jeannie on her team, and that's Jeannie Caulfield for y'all that don't know, it's a mutual friend of ours. She's part of the family. If she's on your team, she wants to do right by you because she respects you. So she'll do it, but in her mind, there's a natural tendency to resist. And I have a little bit of that. In other words, if you know somebody that's like, hey, I dare you to go, drive your car 120 miles an hour on Mopac, they'll be like, hell yeah, I'll do that. You're gonna dare me? That's the type. That's a rebel. They always want to defy. And they're great because they will show you things that other people might not be able to show you because they're willing to step outside the box. The final one is questioner. So a questioner is somebody that basically says, okay, we just had this all hands meeting, right? And Dre, I just need like 10 more minutes of your time. Can I please just go to the trailer? That sort of thing. That's a questioner because they will do your bidding, but only after they understand why you want them to. And so the trick is they look like they might be usurping you or trying to get the better of you, but they're not. They just won't do it until they understand it. So they resist internal or external, but they are pro-internal. They believe in themselves. So those are the 4 things right there. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a little bit of a skit. Brianna's going to come up here. And what we're going to do is 2 ways. The first way is without knowing any of this. And then the second way is with. And what I'm going to do with you guys is I'm going to have you say, what do you think her top appreciation language is? And what do you think her tendency is? And I'll remind you what the tendencies are. So I'm going to be sitting in my office, slaving away as usual. And
You're doing great, Mike. You're doing great.
come on in.
I know you just got out of a really big meeting, but I need one hone in on where the emergency exits are for the plan one more time.
Well, I just went over them all. I mean, did you not quite understand that, or what happened here?
Yeah, I just really
I
want to
gotta
make
go.
sure.
Like I got a golf cart.
Okay,
like,
fine. I got it.
Can you just thank
I
you?
got it.
Please, thank you. Okay, so what happened there? So we've all been with these bosses. I've been one. That I'm already like, I just got out of the meeting, I'm tired, like where is the taco? Like, I don't know. And so I'm trying to figure out why she's even here. And all this is, again, I'm on E. You know, I'm all about what I don't have, what's going, you know, there's no empathy, there's no compassion. None of that exists in that example. So we're gonna do it again, knowing that I know all this about her.
Knock, knock.
Come on in.
I brought you a taco, and I know that you just got out of a big meeting, but I want to go over the emergency action plan. Do you have a few minutes?
I have 5 minutes, and then I have to get to the main stage.
Great. I know the fire marshal is coming, so I want to make sure that we get this all dialed in, and it's right the first time. So when he comes, we're good to go.
Okay, got it. Excellent. Okay, tell me about 5 minutes, and then, yeah, we're fast forwarding here. All right, so you good? You
I'm
feel good?
Thank you so much. I feel great. I
All
want
right.
to see this, and when the fire marshal comes, we got it.
Go kill it. All right, thank you, Bree. Okay.
Even better than the
Yes.
first time.
Bree, again.
Ah!
So, okay, everybody. So what language is she? What appreciation language do y'all think she is? Anybody say?
Quality time.
There we go. Easy, easy. She wanted the 5 minutes with the boss. Okay.
And get to give me the taco.
Now, as far as
That's his.
well,
It's not really, but
it's not. I mean, I will take a taco anytime. But okay. So as a reminder, the 4 tendencies are upholder, questioner, obliger, and rebel. Which one do you think she tested as? Yes, yes. I know it wasn't that hard of a skip. And what I found is a lot of my staff test exactly like Bree. So many people are questioners that work in this. It's wild. There's very few. Like the rebels are very. That's why I kept using Jeannie because she's like the only one that tested that way. You're pretty much either a questioner or an obliger, like myself. And then as far as the 5 languages, most everybody is service and service and quality time. And then a few of them, like myself, I'm more words and service. I do like, being told nice things. So that's what we do. So what happened is I did this at Blue Fest, I did this at Wonderfront, and again, it's not me being inauthentic. It's not me saying, I'm changing my personality at all. It's literally a refocus. And now I understand what she needs to do her job better. She's walking out of my office, head held high, ready to kill it for me, rather than just, oh, Hanley's in a bad mood. What's going on with Mike? That's not it at all. But I had to take a pause and say, okay, I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to do that because I know that's what she needs. And that little second made a world of difference. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the big thing there. So the other thing too is we've got the how to manage your staff. The other thing is how to manage crowds. That's another thing. How are we empathetic and compassionate to our crowds? How many times do you hear these jokes about the type of people you're at? If you're working an EDM festival, if you're working this and that, you have all the jokes. But a lot of that trickles down. And I really do believe in leading by example. Some of the best places I've been in terms of work places are ones where the boss isn't making fun, the boss isn't focusing on the bad stuff. They're literally they're there to get the job done, but they're doing it in a compassionate, mature way. And so that leads over to crowd control and crowd management. And part of that is, we touched upon it in the safety part a little bit, and thank you, Sage and Ryan, for that, or excuse me, Sage and Scott for that. But what I'm getting at is the psychology behind it. How you move these crowds, how you move them around. Once you understand that and you understand the why, you're not just judging the people like, oh, it's a bunch of, so-and-so's doing this again at the stage or whatever. We can say that sometimes lightly, but for the most part, again, I try to avoid it because these are the people that pay our paychecks. They're the reason we are here. So to make fun of them constantly, to me, doesn't really serve a purpose. So you get to that point, and then when it gets to the emergency action plan and all these other things, another thing I've heard from my staff is they don't understand the why. They don't know why they're doing this. They just get thrown this 30-page book and maybe a quick little run-through just to check off the boxes. But they're like, well, so why do I go out that door? If I came in that door, I don't get that. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is really focus on, hey guys, we're going to have a meeting. This is what you're reading beforehand, but this is why I'm doing it. If you have the why, what does that do? That makes everybody feel more inclusive. That makes them feel more welcome, more part of the team, but also it gives them the opportunity to ask questions, like the questioners may want to do, and say, well, Mike, why are you doing it this way? I saw this festival does it that way. Now, again, if I'm on E emotionally, and I can't even listen and be empathetic or at anything of those good things at all, I'm just going to shut it down. But if I'm in a good headspace, if I've done my work, then I'm going to say, you know what, okay, let's explore that idea either offline or right now, depending on the situation. So we've got our staff covered, we've got our crowds covered, and at this point, Now it's more just how do we lead with compassion ourselves? How are we more aligned? That gets to us, our inner self. So for me, on a personal note, I shared with you how the vulnerability that I had in terms of trying to become a better uncle and a better family member, that led to becoming a better worker and a better all-around human. I don't know how successful I am, but I'm trying, and I think that's all I can really ask of anybody is, if you're stuck in your ways, that's going to be hard for me to accept, because I really do believe that this is a journey, it's not a destination. I believe all that, and what we're trying to do is say, okay, what are your values? And one of the best things I will tell you, this is kind of my work Bible. You guys probably know who Brene Brown is. She's great. Yeah, anybody that talks to me even for a half hour. The great thing about Brene, and you can see all the little tabs I have that I've focused on over the years. The great thing is she has this page. It says list of values. It's a shit ton of words, but you whittle it down to 2, and you say, what are my 2 values that are above all else? And then you try to live by them. So as an example, I've realized that 2 of my values are teaching and giving back and service. And a lot of us are already in that way because, like Gene, you've done teaching. Dre, I know you have. A lot of us leaders have done this. I mean, everybody that's done, I've actually called on the vendors here to become teachers for the last 2 days, and I thought they did a kick-ass job.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But that aligns with me. That aligns with what I'm trying to do. Now, I would be lying to you if I said, it was easy. It's not. Getting up on stage is not easy to do. But that's the whole thing, is if you're not a little bit uncomfortable and pushing your boundaries a little bit, you're really never going to get anywhere. And I know that firsthand. Now it's, if I'm not a little uncomfortable with something I'm doing, then I try to figure out a way to get that way. What other leap can I take? But is it aligned with my values? Because again, as leaders, we're going to have times where Sarah may come to me and say, man, Morgan just really upset me. I don't know why F&B is doing this. And then Morgan comes in 10 minutes later and she's like, dude, you got to calm Zimmerman down, And so I'm just like, okay, I didn't see the infraction. I don't even know what the heck they're arguing about. I have to make a decision. What does that mean? I have to go with my gut. I have to go with my intuition, because I'm going to please neither of them or maybe one, not both. And I'm sure as leaders, we've all had that problem. So it gets back to, if you have strong values, a strong sense of morals, and you have a good purpose, you know what you're going after, you're going to be more on the side of that. And you're going to be able to make those decisions and say, you know what, this is my call, this is why I'm doing this. I'm saying it in an empathetic way, saying, this isn't just my way or the highway. These are my reasons why. You may not agree, but this is my reasons. That's the best you can do, And then you lead with that. And the leaders that do that I work for, I have a lot of admiration, because they're not trying to be like, did I make the right call to do this? They're not really. They might be unsure a little bit, but they just trust their gut. They just know that that's the right move to make. So, again, whether it's using mindfulness, meditation, yoga, all those great things. I'm a big fan of meditation. I cannot do a yoga pose to save my life, but meditation for me is great. And that's kind of what, has been working. And so that's why I called you guys all here this last couple of days, because I had this idea 4 years ago. And, the funny part about it is, all the vendors were excited 4 years ago, but they go, when the hell are we going to have time, Well, as it so happens, we have time now. So I'm very grateful for that. And that's the whole thing, is again, I could be so upset that I couldn't even put this together for y'all and make this happen, and just be like, oh, I lost all these gigs, COVID sucks, what's going to happen? No, I mean, I had my days, don't get me wrong. Late March sucked, and I'll be the first to admit that. That was terrible. But now, I'm like, well, what can we be grateful for? What can we do with this time? How can we best utilize it? Education, teaching, giving back, a focus on service. So when we do get back there, we're going to have a staff that's going to be a little more lost. They're going to need our guidance more than ever. And so if we have what it takes, whether it's for reading these books or your own methods, however it comes to you, you're going to be able to lead these teams that might be a little more stressed, a little more lost, at least until we figure out how to work in this post-COVID era, a little bit better, because you guys are going to lead by that example. They're going to take your energy, which I do believe is contagious, and they're going to run with it. So that's really what I'm trying to get at, guys, is I'm so grateful y'all are here. The fact that you even showed up and came to this tells me that you have an open mind, you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to take advantage of this moment. That tells me that you guys are veering towards that. Your tanks are almost full, and gas is so cheap, it's great. So that's the whole thing, is you have all this, now you have a little bit more of a tool set to make it even better, to really make something happen. So basically, I just want to close with this. We're all hardwired for connection. And we know that. We, as humans, as social beings, we've seen this, of course. You know, half the reason this has been so fun is because I get to hang out in a room with you guys again. Some of you, like Sean, I haven't seen in a couple years, you know? And it's so great because we need this, you know? And so we're doing it safely. Obviously, we've got the masks on and everything. But just know that that's how we're meant to be. We're hardwired. It's in our DNA. So whatever we can do to keep that inclusion coming, especially with our staff, you know, leading by example, having your values set, making sure that you're empathetic and you lend an ear and you lead towards empathy rather than shame, you know, and that's having some tough conversations when you're tired. It might be an 18-hour day, but what you don't want is everyone gossiping and everyone talking and everyone being on eggshells, you know, at least with you. You can't control your staff, but you can influence. And so if you can get to that empathetic thing where there's a safe space. I can go to Jean in her trailer, and this is true, I can do this. I don't feel bad. I don't feel she's going to shame me. I'll say, hey, Jean, so listen, I think, you know, Billy Strings is going to be 10 minutes late, but here's why. You might not be happy, but you've created a safe space in order for me to do that. You know, and that again, not everybody can do that. How many times have you been like, well, I don't want to go to Brianna and tell her they're going to be 10 minutes late. Holy cow, you know? I don't want, that's what you want to get away from. You don't want that reputation. At least I don't. I think, you know, that's not a sign of weakness. That's the thing I want to also reiterate, is compassion is strength, it's courage. Because you're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, you're doing all these things that you're afraid to do, but people pick up on that energy. And then they're going to do it for you. They're going to go out there and be better sign-ups, better production, better AR, better everything, because you start at the top, you know, and you let that energy trickle down, and then your event, and in my opinion, does better than ever, and is, you know, hopefully the best event we've ever had if we get events back, which we will, because I believe, and my tank is close enough as we can get. So that's pretty much it, guys. I wanted to say one other thing. We have kind of a surprise. I know you probably know most of it at this point, but